Let's go. Hey, one more RWI, Reimagining Wealth Initiative touchdown. It's always a pleasure. We've been doing this weekly for now almost for more than 2 years, almost and a half, I think. I'm going to do the calculations further. But we always, it's not only a conversation around how we can reimagine wealth for the third decade of this 20th century. It's around new forms of understanding wealth, how it relates to health, and it's about paradigms that are not massively running on the societies that we became, like the peer-to-peer paradigm, like the complexity doing paradigm, like the profound regeneration paradigm, like the glocality, the global age, the glocality paradigm. So we have been doing all these types of talks and explorations about new things, all new things that you can imagine, even communication interspecies. And it's fascinating. I was just talking about that with TV. It's fascinating how it always nurtures itself, like people like you, LAILA, coming and staying, doing some time, sharing thoughts, sharing experiences, and just nurturing the general flux of this open initiative. And it's amazing. It's amazing. It's refreshing and amazing always. So be very welcome. And we not always do a check-in. We eventually do a check-in. It's going to be nice to start this check-in today with you, LAILA. How you're coming here? How did you met TV? What in earth and what in earth in this planet has you been doing? And yeah, be very welcome.
Thank you so much. I met Sensoria and TB in a neighborhood. I live just close to the new place that's Sensoria is in. It is like a store. And I was in a lunch with friend and just working, and I see 3D print, and I was like, what is this? It's like office. I didn't understand. I just got in, and TV was here and was like chatting about the Sensoria. What is this? And I was like, wow, I was looking for this place for many years, like some place like free for sharing, not academia. And the place is beautiful. It's not usual to see like kind of place in the street. Windows is big. I was like, yeah, I want to come back, and I just take information and I show up when I have time, and it's beautiful. I don't need to take appointments, or I just go when TB is there or someone is there. I'll just come show up and say hi and share my ideas and my art, or hear other ideas, and that's it. Is that how I met Sensoria? I'm a visual artist. I work installation and sculpture, and I use AI programming as a process of making. Yeah, and I love like in my process to share and make art with like people. It's just not about me and my process. That's it. I think I resume everything. I still don't know Sensoria that well, and I'm very excited to learn more, to share more, to hear more. That's it.
I want to add something. I want to add something here about the way you practice your art. I think it's relevant for people here. You told me once that you had a project and people were a bit stressed because they wanted to execute a plan and they didn't know how to work with these new materials. There was some welding involved, if I remember, and you told them that what's important was the process, and that the goal is not defined. So what I appreciate there is that you have a work style that is emergent rather than something that is meticulously planned. And that's a lot about how we co-create as a group. Oftentimes we set to go in one direction and we end up in a very different place. Oftentimes we think we know how to do things and then we just build the new methodologies as we go. Yeah, that's pretty much how we operate as a network of networks here.
Yeah, thank you for sharing this, TV. It's just for me, making is a process of experimentation. And yeah, when in my project, when I show up the prototype to the welder artisan, people was like, we had like need to do the same thing that's your prototype. I was like, no, I need you guys to experiment the prototype with me, to add stuff, to make mistake. And I think for me, I had like in my small experience, mistake in process is a beautiful, something beautiful and surprising result, because it's transforming the shape of the project in a very real transformation. And yeah, this is my way of working. It's making mistake, experimentation, and starting from A, but not ending the project from A. Go somewhere else. Yeah.
Tim,
Yeah.
Tim, would you like to make a check-in, my friend?
Sure. Yeah. Hi. Nice to meet you, LAILA.
Hi, Tim.
Hey. It's funny, Tiberius kind of emphasized it when he interjected there. But as I was listening to your introduction too, I was thinking, okay, so yeah, she's basically doing the same thing we're doing here. So when you said you were curious to learn about it, I thought, well, no, you definitely already know all about it. So it seems that because as Tiberius pointed out, that's how you described your approach. There was a lot of resonances with sort of how this particular call often goes, and also like Sensorica in general seems to go as an open network exploration. So it just seems to, yeah. Anyway, no, it's great. Sounds neat. Yeah, I'd like to hear more about your work and what kinds of things you do. But yeah, neat.
Thank you, Tim.
So,
yeah.
let's do something. We don't really have a type of agenda, LAILA. We just go with the flow of our curiosity. But eventually, we have not eventually. We always have something in the horizon that we've been exploring. So, and this is a very interesting way to get us acquainted, weekly with the progress of something that you are, just got curious about it, of whatever thing I have been doing, or TB has been doing, or Tim has been doing, or Lauren has been doing, or Stefan has been. There's other folks here, right? And this is something related to stigma that has a direct relationship with this concept of open value networks. And if TB is in the mood, you could talk a little bit about that, TB. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, LAILA, you know about stigmergy?
No, not really.
It's a way of coordination. So that's what Vinny is alluding at. It's It's a bit like ants are able to coordinate without having a big brain and without having a lot of intelligence, but together as a whole, they produce some results that are stunning. And yeah, so that is a mechanism of coordination that works on leaving signals in your environment about findings, about what you're doing, and these signals are picked up by other ants. And if there is something that is important following these signals, they amplify the signal, they add to the signal. These signals are in the form of pheromones, so they're like they deposit some chemicals in their environment, so they can sense that, right? And if the signal is about something important for them, they can add to it. They can add more pheromones on top of that, so even more ants are able to follow the same signals. And so that leads to self-organization, because the higher the signal, the more important something is. For example, if they find food somewhere, they leave a trail of these pheromones that leads other ants to the same source of food. So they cut it into pieces and bring it back to the nest. Yeah, so that's how we like to work here. We get into different spaces, and you know, we're very transparent and collaborative. So we provide this signaling about what we're doing, what we're about to do, what's important to do, what we think it's important, you know, and other people, they respond to these calls, to these cues, right? Yeah, so there is some planning in the way we work. If we have some very scripted activity and some deadlines, for example, we have to write a grant proposal. You know, then we have a methodology, and there is some planning, there's some scheduling. Some people get involved, but most of the time, collaboration is stigmergic, meaning that there is no plan. But everybody has a plan, you know. Everybody has somewhere to go. Everybody has some goals. Everybody's working on something, and then it just sends signals and has other people joining the person. Maybe it's just thinking together, brainstorming together. Maybe it's writing something together, or maybe it goes even deeper, and people actually get together and do stuff together, right? So it relates somehow to the way you work as an individual, but stigmergy is like, yeah, it's like it works very well at large scale, you know, when you're surrounded by hundreds of individuals, they say. At some scale, you know,
yeah, and in the beginning, to be, when it comes to Sensorica in this sense, TB too came from the corporate world somewhat in the past, and he appropriated something called ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning, and adapted to something called NRP, Network Resource Planning, right? And this has been the way that these cues and the signaling has been happening around this proposal of an open value network. But now it has been evolving through time, and we're now passing to a new iteration of it, like understanding that it has to absorb, it needs to absorb the complexities that we as a species generate in the complexities around us when it comes to nature, right? Chibi, if you want to talk a little bit about that, would be nice, my friend, or even Tim.
Well, I think it's funny you say that, because there's a guy from Greece. So he's very close. He's part of a gang in Greece that are very close to Michel Bauwens. Michel Bauwens visited them a few times. They've been following along in some conferences. I met some of them in Amsterdam at some point at the peer-to-peer value conference. And so one of these guys, he wants to apply the NRP, these tools that we develop within Sensorica with other partners. He wants to apply them to a group of artists. Okay, in Athens. So he just pinged me on Discord a few days ago, and I said, "Wow, this is very interesting. So let's take the time and plan something for that, like schedule some meetings and see where this could go." And I tagged you in this conversation, LAILA. I thought maybe you may be interested in connecting with some other artists from Europe and see why they would like to use some of these tools, right? But you also watched the video the presentation that I made in Quebec City, where we were discussing about art in the peer-to-peer, in a peer-to-peer world, right?
Yeah, I think I listened to this in YouTube. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, I think was interesting to hear another perspective of pair by pair, because in art, I think making the process differently by peer to pair is something is not common, or not like not common, but people doesn't have the vocabulary to link it. Because I think in my process I do it, but I didn't know how. When I listened to the video, I was linking the process with like what can be more interesting to for an artist to go out from this traditional atelier to just be in this network of resource of sharing, how that can transform the piece of the art with all of many brain that's working in it.
Yeah. So I can keep you posted once I know more about these artists in Athens. So essentially, they want to adopt these tools to organize as a network of artists, and I don't know how that is going to impact their art, because reorganizing in a different way will probably lead to a new way of doing art, maybe more collaborative, maybe more, I don't know, less, maybe more collaborative. But I think what we need, I think what this peer-to-peer movement needs is its own art, with its own aesthetics, with because we are building a new culture here. So Vinny is who he is, right? But the way I perceive him from my point of view, okay, and the role I like to give Vinny in some of our projects, because Vinny is part of Brazilian networks, right? And we're part of Sensorica. So we interact in this network of networks. Okay, so from his perspective, Sensorica is in the orbit of his network, Tao Dao, and from my perspective, Tao Dao is in the orbit of Sensorica. So we talk about orbitals. Okay, we talk about having these links with other networks that provide something that we don't have, and I see Tao Dao and Vini in Brazil as a source of culture. Okay, because they're doing a lot of things that are less formal, less organizational, like Vinny likes to speak about Sensorica, and more spontaneous, and more, so they create new cultural trends, and they they enact new I don't know, new values, new ways of being, creating new habits. Okay, they're pioneering these infrastructure, this practice of sharing resources among a group, like money, a place to sleep, you know, all kinds of things like that. So they're creating new habits. So for me, it's a source of inspiration when it comes to the peer-to-peer culture. When we ask ourselves, you know, if peer-to-peer is about new economic processes, you know, it's like Wikipedia has been built, it's like Linux has been built, is like I don't know, this blockchain stuff is being built. If peer-to-peer is more about like how making stuff, like, you know, in the realm of economics, you know, it's got to have its own culture too. And I sometimes I find that this culture is not well crystallized, is not even well communicated. And building a culture is like already providing a set of values to people that they could, you know, it helps people decode peer-to-peer processes and activities. Like they instinctively can know why we do stuff the way we do it, right? Things become more common, you know, in their minds. So culture is important, right? It's this layer that brings people in and makes them comfortable with these new habits, right? And so yeah, so what I'm often I like to talk to these artists is, you know, there's all these new ways of getting together as an artist and you know, having networks, and maybe there is an economic impact on everyone if we collaborate this way. But also, like, if we do stuff in a peer-to-peer way, what is the peer-to-peer culture? What is peer-to-peer art? How can we use art, new art? How can we create new art that people can spot and say, oh yeah, this is peer-to-peer art, you know, because there's something in the aesthetics. And then we start through that to communicate this peer-to-peer culture through these artistic artifacts, right? So that's a big question for me. I wonder if I'm eager to speak to these people in Athens that want to organize as a peer-to-peer network to ask them, like, what is peer-to-peer art, and what are you making, so that, you know, it kind of reflects also how you do stuff, or how you want to do stuff from now on as a peer-to-peer network. Okay, how does that change the art that you're doing, you know? Because I think if you decide to organize and operate within a peer-to-peer network, but your art stays the same, it's like, it's something that didn't go the distance, right? You know, so you're embracing a new way of being and doing stuff. And so my question is, how is that changing what you're making, you know? And how you reflect that back to the world through your artifacts, you know? But I don't even know what peer-to-peer art is. And I don't know if somebody knows. I'd like to speak to somebody that knows.
Yeah, it's very large as well. Not a question, but a reflection, because I think, you know, peer-to-peer is a philosophy of doing. And in the art, for me, is like the process, in the result that change with like sharing and process of making. But how peer-to-peer can be different than going to a workshop and doing like with bunch of people. Some people like do A, another person does C, another person does Z, P. We have like a glass of metal that's made by this group of people. I think for art is more about, not about just what we see, but what we don't see in a piece of art, and all of these feelings. For me, when I go to see an art show, an art piece, I need to see what's behind the piece, what is not showing. And I think peer-to-peer can be shown in this way of like, because we can see one emotion or many emotion, or many that's can be open for. But I'm still curious about this as I don't know what's that mean too. I'm just exploring, having reflection. I don't have any idea. When I Google Sensoria and I read about it, when I come to the lab, I was like, yeah, that makes sense for me, but what's that mean? I don't know. I just like, yeah, that makes, yeah, and this is something also that I want to share. You know, for uh, all the technology, for a woman to find a place to explore is not accessible, and that's of my I don't know what's happened in the world, but this is my very small experience, and it's very difficult to find this kind of places or sharing places. It's not in academia construction, in academia infrastructure, and find it in a way that is very independent. Is I didn't see that before. And as a woman that like in working with technology, I always find is not accessible and hard to fit and to find space or to say, la, I know blockchain is not like it's not credible. My it's like still not in the yeah. This is I don't know what's happening in international situation, but for my small experience, I didn't find that easy. Even when I go to event like blockchain or like hearing about, because I'm not I don't study technology, I don't study anything like in informatics. I'm just a curious person. I learn alone, and I download software, try it. This is my way of living. I've never been in any university. That's I just go with my own research, and going through this in this way, I didn't find that's easy to have like door or to have and you still need to be going through university to find your way in this in technology in general. And yeah, I don't know, I go maybe far from from TV question, but yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
January,
you're a natural open learner, someone that is so curious and gain with time the understanding and the awareness of how being curious is the most important fuel that any one of our species needs in order to, you know, to to evolve as a human being, right? And it's not everybody is touched or gained this awareness of how open learning dynamics are crazy important for us. We do it as a child, but eventually we are captured by this formal educational system that we call school, or the schooling dynamics that it, it, it was created to not only it was created to better format ourselves or better align ourselves, or, you know, huge complexities, huge potentials as children, um, to the society fit, the way that society is running its thereabouts, right? So it's fascinating to see, Laila, how you are one of these people that were able to generate awareness about that. I'm not talking. I'm not talking like awareness in a sense of in a sense of being critical about schooling, right? Yeah, you can. I think we often become critical about schooling, but in my understanding, for instance, I understand that schooling has its time, and now it needs, if not a huge upgrade, it needs to be totally reimagined as education, as an educational tool, right? Educational tool or tooling to deal with the complexities that we live nowadays. But it's fascinating to see, and you are always talking as a woman. So I was curious. Are you, and you talk about Mason, are you, do you live in Lebanon, or did you live in Lebanon?
No, no.
What, and LAILA is a Arabic name, I think. And would be nice to get to know a little bit more about you, LAILA.
I'm originally from Morocco. I was born in Morocco, and I live in Montreal like more than 10 years now. Yeah, yeah, that's it. And I work as an industrial designer in full-time job. I work in medical industry that's do braces. I worked there for 6 years now. I switched for this because I couldn't have like making life with art. And I was learning 3D software to do my sculpture because I like experimental, doing the prototype and just have fun in virtual way before making it or transform it to. And when I finished this 3D certificate, I was like, I need to work as a 3D designer, and I just find this work in industrial design. It's fun. I learned so much stuff. It's not like ambitious as a work, and there is no experimental and creative that I wish, but still I'm learning some like technical stuff that I use now for my art, and vice versa. Is yeah, that's my little story.
So, LAILA, you wanted to bring one of your arts creations, one of your statues or sculptures at the lab. Now I'm thinking, because you mentioned blockchain and you'd like to learn more about that. You also saw the video that I presented to these artists in Quebec City. I think if you want, we can embark on an experiment with your sculpture. So let's say you put it on the window at the lab, and then through some QR codes, we can engage people with your piece, so they can leave like comments or stuff like that. If you want, we could also experiment with art as a living object, always in people's view. We had this project with another collective in Montreal, and they finally dropped it. It's about visual art, it's about paintings. And the idea there is to use things like blockchain, okay, infrastructure like blockchain, and allow art to move from one location to another. So somebody could adopt your art for a month. Okay, so it could be somebody that owns a hotel and he passes by and he says, "Oh my God, I can adopt it." So then they can drop some coins, some crypto donations somewhere, and they can adopt this. But at the same time, the art propagates with the same QR codes and the same ways to engage with people. So somebody else can discover that they could, after that, also adopt. Adopt is like adopting a child, right? For a period of time. They can also adopt your art. So it would move from one location to another. There are some contracts that could be made that we envisioned, where if the art is in one location, that person is legally responsible for it. So it has to make sure that it doesn't get stolen, it doesn't get damaged. and then when the next person would like to adopt it and put it in their place for a month or two, well, the contract gets transferred to the other person, and there's a drop of coins that goes to the artist, and so on and so forth. So your art is like moving from space to space. From instead of being in a gallery, it's where people like it to have it, okay, but it's never to be owned, and it's always to be shared, right? You cannot own it. You cannot buy it and put it in your basement and use it as a store of value, like they say, as a hedge against, I don't know, some market crashes, like some people do. Art is not an economic instrument. It's art, right? It's to be seen. It's always to be in in people's view. So we had these ideas. I don't know if you want to experiment with some of that. You know, it's to give life to your art in this peer-to-peer fashion, rather than just finding a window for it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's so many
It's
things that we can.
interesting. Yeah.
Hmm?
Like
There's so many things that you can get exposed to in this way. You know, like I don't know, smart contracts, cryptocurrency, and everything that you need to handle that, a wallet, an exchange, you know, all this kind of stuff, right? So yeah, I don't know if you we'll speak more about it, but yeah. So there is also this dimension of so there's 3 dimensions here that we spoke about today about artists, right? So how do you organize among artists to you know, be able to collaborate? Okay, so like the peer-to-peer wave, having like an open value network of artists. There's also what is art for the peer-to-peer culture. Okay, what is the aesthetic of peer-to-peer art, and what it communicates, okay, all that stuff. But there's also how does an artistic artifact live, okay, in a peer-to-peer world, and that's that kind of exploration that I was telling you now. You know, to have something that is perpetually in public view, never to be owned, but always to go where people want it to be, and being a live object, meaning has a sort of a Web2 sphere to it, a profile somewhere where people can comment, like, share, you know, all that stuff, right? So they can engage with a piece of art. It's not just an object that they see, but there is a sort of a digital sphere around it where people can interact with other people. So if I see an object today and I leave some comments, then somebody comes next week, sees the same object. It doesn't matter where the object is, it could move around, but the other person sees my comments too. You know, so people can have a discussion that could be asynchronous, okay? They don't have to be there all at the same time in front of the piece of art. But it is opening up this virtual space around your art, so to let people say whatever they have to say, right? To let people enjoy the experience and share their experience with others, you know. So yeah, so how does a piece of art live, okay? What is it destined for in the peer-to-peer world, you know? Is it treated as a commodity? Is it treated as a rare thing that people buy as an asset, okay, to hedge against, I don't know, market crashes? Or to move wealth around from one country to another without being taxed? Is it that kind of thing, or is it just something that you know, it's there to engage with people at all times, you know?
yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I'm open all of this perspective of no limitation of places, space, and because this scripture that I will bring to Sensoria was in the beginning. For me is not finished because I I There is this gallery in Tibionau, Saint-Hubert, is a neighborhood where it's like was a very old, very poor neighborhood, not today, and was like a lot of store that sell like clothes, very cheap clothes, and there was like so many. I think I will share photo with everyone to
Yeah,
have.
please share. I find it very, very interesting.
Let's see how we can do that.
Even if it's not finished, I don't know what finished means.
Can do that. Show screen.
You can share it as a file, or you can share it as a screen share, or as a link.
I can share screenshot.
Okay.
Is working?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. The piece is this. This one, I think in the beginning was a mannequin that I collect from this store that was buying by a company, because this neighborhood is going through gentrification, and all it was like African store, mini like store that's make clothes for wedding, and many artisans working there, and now it's closing because the rent to renew the rent is very high, and now all of this is more like modern and expensive store that's sell jewelry, like all of this random new stuff. And I was collecting this from a store in front of this gallery. And yeah, I was like coordinating with the gallery. I want the piece to be in I think it will to be in the window, to reflect, because I was collecting this from the store in front of the gallery, and they wanted to bring it up there because the store is now is closed, and now I think is a jewelry modern store. I don't follow the update, but it was like it was not this this old store. And they bring the I was working the mannequin with like a software that's I was given the software random text about dreams that people share in internet. That's people I don't know, I don't talk with. I just go through Facebook groups, forum, and just collect collect text and give it to the software, and software give me the repetition that's happened between all of these people dreams. And physically in my studio I was doing, I don't know what's how no in English, knot.
It's a nut.
Knot. I was doing the knot like physically, but the software give me the numbers, the distance, and like working with the software in this way. Yeah, and they finished. It take me like a long time, but it was a fun process because the software was giving me like some surprise. There is a glass word 100 times or 1 million times in this, all of these people sharing all this the same thing. Yeah, physically it doesn't seem the software, but software like did almost the job. I was just practice the result of the software physically. Yeah, and it was yesterday in a meeting with this gallery that I am a member, and I was showing another work with a toilet, this one, and when the exhibition was finished, this person he just needs space, and he put the toilet in front of the windows, and people was like stopping and questioning why the toilet is there. That's the idea of windows is very interesting to go through, like interaction with people. I don't know what's I was going through this to to go to your idea to be about like spaces and navigate the piece somewhere else. I don't feel I own this piece. I don't have any attach apart, is making by me in part and by software in part and by this person that donate to me the manka, and this person, she was sharing with me her story about the store gentrification and that she is sad to leave, and all this emotion is there. I don't feel, is my scripture, is everything, and is the fun thing in this, the software is part of this too. Yeah, this is my kind of work, and I have now 3 new work that's just like in the beginning of reflection. That's unfortunately one I didn't had the grant for production, but it's okay. I will keep going.
Yeah. So let me interject there and make some parallels with open source, the open source world. Okay. The open source world, people like you're familiar with the open source world, are you?
Mm-hmm.
With how people write software together, right? So
yeah.
The idea is that there is that, what's important in the open source world is to provide the reference to who made that thing. Okay, so like Linux, we know that Richard Stallman started GNU project, and then Linus Torvald, he wrote the kernel for the operating system, so everybody knows that. So every open source software is signed in some way. We know when we there are traces to go back to know who made it, right? And all the participants, not just the people that started it, but also all the participants that contributed to that in the future. So in the open source world, there is this provenance idea, right? A reference to the creators, the makers. So if we go back to the artistic world, the artist is always associated with the art, or the artist or the artists that collaborated to do that. They're always associated with the artifact. Even in the peer-to-peer world, right? So there is that. Then we can go into the aspects of the economic aspects, like how do you survive as an artist? Okay, so when I was proposing this, the idea with the crypto and people adopting your art for a period of time is that they always thank the creator in some way, and it could be in crypto. Okay, so they could make a payment that goes to the artist, and it could be like the payment goes to the network of artists, and a portion of that goes to the network, and a portion goes to the artists that contributed to that particular piece of art. So there's also a model of economic sustainability for artists to be able to continue to do their art, right? So there's that too. But one important aspect here that I wanted to point to, another parallel from open source, which is a peer-to-peer dynamic, and art, is that if I have an idea of an open source of a new application, of a new software, I put it up on a website, and then what happens is that people see that, okay, and they decide to contribute or to do something with it, okay. And so it's like whoever finds that interesting engages with it. That's very different from capitalism, where I make a product and then I try to sell it to whoever I think needs it, okay. The open source software propagates based on interest from whoever. Yeah, so whoever finds any value in that engages with it, either as a contributor or as a user or whatever, right? So this mode of propagation of the art has that parallel with the open source world. So let's say you put it at the Sensorica Lab, and then you open up the practice of, hey, you know what? You could have it for a month. You could have it in your lobby in your company, or you could have it, if you have a hotel, you can put it in the lobby of the hotel. You can, so the idea there is that you're not planning the propagation. Whoever sees it and falls in love with the art, maybe there's somebody that has a cafe nearby, or a restaurant nearby, okay, or just a clothing store nearby. Whoever finds it interesting gets it, and from there it goes somewhere else to another individual that finds it interesting. So the parallel with the open source production is that this propagation is not planned, it's organic. It goes from the person that is interested to another person that is interested to another person that is interested. So the trajectory, okay, moving from one space to another is something that is just happens organically. So you always have your piece of work where it needs to be, where it is loved by that host, that new host. So if you have it and you say, I'm going to put it in that gallery, that's a planned move. That's you saying, I'm going to try to put it there and see if somebody likes it. The other way is that the art is going to find its new place. Because there is another person that falls in love with it and say, I want to have it next. Or, oh, okay, somebody else has signed up. Maybe I'm going to be the third person to have it. You see? So you're not controlling this propagation. It just moves according to people's interests. And who knows where it's going to end up. But it doesn't matter, because whatever it is loved. And you don't have to discover the next place where people love it. It just gets there because people manifest their interest. But in order for that to happen, you have to open up that possibility through a QR code or something to communicate that possibility. You see? And then it just gets a life on its own that you don't have to control. So whatever it is, it's because it's loved. And talking to the economic dimension of that, because it is loved, you are going to get some form of how do you say, some form of reciprocation. Okay, people are going to I don't know, drop some coins into that wallet for you. So you're able to. So it may be that this mode of propagation, maybe that economically speaking could be a very interesting mode of propagation. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's at the same time, TD, it's a mirroring dynamics. Like people are seeing them in that art, and it comes back, right, to the thing itself and to the artist, and so people recognize it as something very valuable for them, not only artistically but humanly. So, and they felt compelled to share whatever resources they have. It could be crypto, it could be fiat, it could be anything, it could be other resources, any type of resources. So that type of dynamics, it has a way to expand, not to scale. And this is very important to say it this way, see, LAILA, because in peer-to-peer dynamics, nothing scales up or scales down in the sense of massive movements, right? Everything expands or contracts, right? So because it's an interactive peer-to-peer dynamic, so it can expand or can contract at the same time, right? And differently from physics, where you lose heat in with the entropy phenomenon, you know, you decohere and deorganize. In the peer-to-peer dynamics, when something is being spread out, it coheres. It coheres more, but coheres in different manners, with different configurations, with different folks in different contexts, different cultures. So it's a very different phenomenon from the physics that we know, where the universe tends to entropy, right? Tends to decohere, to deorganize, to lose heat. But in the peer-to-peer phenomenon, the interactive peer-to-peer phenomenon, as a network of networks, once expands, it coheres more, it generates more heat, you know, and you establish this network of networks dynamics that is able to sustain whatever you want to sustain. I don't know if I add more confusion to it, but I just want to add this.
Well,
What you were talking to.
I could probably build on top of that idea, Vinny. So you see, Leila, so in this kind of modality, you can have two types of contributors at least. Okay, we can dig deeper, and I do have some other ideas, but just to simplify these two categories of contributors. One type of contributor, the most obvious one, it would be the person that adopts your piece of art for 2 months, let's say. Okay, so let's say the first is the Sensorica Lab. Okay, so we have it there. And the contribution to you is to say, thank you, the artist. Here, I give you $100 worth of, I don't know, Bitcoin. Okay. But if we add this digital realm around the art, a place where people can comment, then you have a second type of contributors, which are the people that don't necessarily want to have it in their place, but they like it, and they go there and they make a comment about it, and they share the link to their friends. So the value that they're adding to it is a conversation, is sharing it with some other people. Okay, so propagation of the art in this digital realm. So, you know, so the person, the category of people that adopt it, there could be an economic contribution. There could also add more to the visibility because they put it in a place where other people can see it. But the people that just pass by are as important as the other ones, because they're the ones that are adding a new level of value to your art by just talking about it. So you can say, how many, wow, my God, 1,000 people have commented on this thing. 1,000 people have liked this and shared this thing. You know, it's like a post that goes viral on Twitter, and everybody sees that post, that meme, that piece of information, and you say, wow, 1 million people have shared this. There's something interesting about that. You see? So we're going back to what Vinny was saying. You know, this is how these new structures emerge through this peer-to-peer dynamics, is that you have a cluster of people that get together to and observe your art. They organize as a fun club around it in some ways, and they, you know, they share their impressions. They may share some ideas with you, you know. So by putting your art in this mode of existence, you are organizing stuff around it. You see, you're organizing an activity of propagation, going or migration in space, going from one location to another. That's a form of self-organization, and you also have this group of people that are kind of, you know, seeing it and discussing about it. And if you have many more of these, or if you one day create a network of artists that all engage in the same practice, then people can jump from one piece of art to another. So let's say, for example, they click on you, they see yours, and they scan that QR code. They go to that digital space where the art, they can interact with it, and then they can see that, oh, so LAILA is the one that has designed this, and what else did she do? And then you can open them up to another gallery and say, oh, I just discovered that LAILA has another piece that is on the other street next by. Oh, I'm gonna walk by and see the other one too. So you see how this practice, reorganizes all sorts of activities and flow around. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting how the idea is makes sense to, because of like the piece will live another story in each place, and yeah, the comment and everything make this piece alive and becoming like part of many sharing, many places, many story, many hearing. Yeah, it's yeah. I find this very is like is a is an algorithm of navigation, but is in different way.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if Tim has he's from my perspective, he's the philosopher. He doesn't like that title, but I wonder if he has some new ideas or some synthesis.
No, not really. No, I'm not gonna go there. See? So that's exactly. Yeah, except to say it's really interesting and it sounds exciting and curious to see where it goes. To bring it back to Vinicius's introductory theme, I think curiosity seemed to be what got piqued mostly in the conversation for me. So really interested to learn more.
Tim is a guitar player, so
yeah, I was just going to say, it sounds to me like there's some actual kind of momentum and direction, and that's what I speak to about the curiosity, right? I mean, it sounds like you're talking about actually putting some art in a sensorical location, and this experiment that Tiberius, I recall I was a little bit part of writing up some of the initial documents, I think, to go with some people about the whole art sharing network, flowing kind of a river of art idea.
Yeah.
So yeah, just all kinds of interesting. I'm tied up in knots of curiosity, just to tie up more knots for you.
Yeah.
And so LAILA, be very, 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 very welcome. I think that this experience that TB proposed to you, it's going to be the idea of happening is already fascinating. So
Thank you.
and the idea itself of happening is already fascinating. So I can't imagine what will come out of it, right? So it's really fascinating because you give a multi-dimensionality for it, for something that is extremely hyper localized as a shop in the street, right? And it gives the opportunity to people to decouple, from that 2D dimension that all of us feels when we are walking through streets, right? You have that 2D dimension that you're going to one place to another, and you're just focusing in doing that, right? Oh, I need to get there, and suddenly you see something that is type of anomaly in the matrix, anomaly in the code, and that something triggers you and puts you in this multi-dimensional space where you feel things flowing, where you feel things that things are not so coherent or not so structured or not so, you know, grounded as you think that they are, right? So I think that has that type of potential. I don't know if you I could well express myself in this way, in this manner, but that's the type of excitement that I feel that we're going to have with this type of experimentation.
That's very interesting, Vinny, because LAILA, she already mentioned that the Sensorica lab is like a glitch in the matrix, because it's not a store, it's not, you know, there's no cash register. So what is this thing, you know? So already it's the unexpected, it's an unexpected experience. And imagine that you can walk in different spaces that look normal, but then you're facing a piece of art and you're scanning that QR code and boom, you're just like transported into something like, what? You know, I can have this thing, I can talk to it, I can talk to people that have seen it yesterday. Yeah, so it's another it's another one of these cracks that once you start looking through it, you know, you kind of see you kind of see beyond the matrix, right? You see another world that it's could be pretty shocking for some people because they're not used to these kind of things. So we would expand that kind of experience in different locations. And LAILA, you know the concept of glocal?
No, I think I would learn so much with you.
Yeah. So the glocal is something that we always talk about. So peer-to-peer has this property of being deeply grounded locally in a local context, like your piece of art at the Sensorica space in the window, that's hyper local. That's, you know, people that walk by see it, right? You can't get more local than that. So we call it hyper local. But at the same time, by providing a QR code and, you know, you're opening this digital realm around it, now you can provide a global access to it, right? So how the glocal expresses itself here, glocal is a mix of local and global, right? So your object is glocal, meaning it can be found and seen in a hyper local context. So people that are walking by the window, okay, neighbors. But then somebody sees it, scans the QR code, and goes to a profile, whatever, a website or whatever, and shares that, okay, with somebody that may be, I don't know, in Japan. Okay, so now they discover it. You see, so the object becomes global. The object becomes discoverable locally, okay, but also globally. So and that conversation that people have around it, it's accessible globally. So they access it through, I don't know, an image, a video. They access the conversation. They don't access the real thing, but they could have it. They could have somebody from Japan can you know, can stay in line and be the next adoption, you know. So it gets packaged, put on a plane, flown, you know, it flies there, and then it moves from there to another location. So that's the concept of being global, you see, and that's very, very common to peer-to-peer. Okay.
Yeah, I think I would have a lot to add to that, but I think I'm just going to leave it there with this introduction explanation that TV gave you, because there's so much layers, you know, and dimensions that we can talk about the global phenomenon, LAILA, and it's extremely artistic, you know. You already have once you get a grip around the concept, and not only the concept, but you feel it culturally. I think that you're going to be even more incentivized, you know, more to, to to generate more art around it, you know, going Salvador Dali way, you know, in a very surrealistic thing. Yeah. Well, folks, I think that we already are in the end of our today's RWI touchdown, and it was a pleasure, LAILA, really, really was a pleasure. Is going to continue to be a pleasure, right? To have you coming with us here weekly and doing this experimentation on Sensorica's lab and getting to better know you, your art, and well, feel really, really welcome. Yeah, and
Thank you so much. I'm also happy to find this space, and I love the story that I find it just in a not expected way. It's just walking in the street is nice, and yeah, I'm I'm excited to share more, to learn more, and to contribute with people like around the world is nice. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Yeah, thanks Vinicius, Tiberius, LAILA. It's a good chat. I don't have any big checkout, but wow.
Yeah, unexpected for you to be here too, because we were like, I was asking Vinny like, what's the topic of the day? What can we get excited about? And you just popped up, and you just changed the conversation completely. So it's really good. All right, guys.
yeah, guys, that's it. Let's continue our interaction or the flow of the conversation through other means and mediums, right? And yeah, see you guys again next week, next Friday. And once more, LAILA, be very welcome. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye,
Everybody, ciao.
everyone. Bye.